So what we're going to do in a second is talk about Sudan and the conflict that's happening in Sudan. It has fallen out of a lot of news cycles, but we wanted to, give everyone an update on, what's happening, talk to people who have firsthand experience of what's going down in Sudan at the moment.
I've seen it coming. Sometimes I would panic. I would buy things for the house. I would tell my friends and family that a war is coming because a country with two armies, this is a recipe for conflict. I knew that the two armies were going to fight because we're talking about armies with an economic empire. They have political clout. One of them was going to try to take over the country by force because also the RSF and SAF, it's an army, but it's also a business. When you control the country, you control access to resources. You can just, funnel off more money. So I just saw the war coming. But the day I woke up, to the sound of gunfire, just a few kilometers away from my house, I was surprised. I was so surprised.
One detail that really jumped out to me was that you started to learn the different kinds of gunfire by the sound.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, that's an AK. Oh, I know what that is. Oh, no, that's that. Which is just, again, it's really terrifying.
And you have to know because you have to react accordingly. I mean, if there's a fighter jet, going, you have to hide, everything. You have to hide in all cases. But then there are certain sounds that when you hear them, it's a good sign. It means that your house is not going to get shelled, that you're safer. But if you don't hear it, this is when you have to worry that I can't hear it because, it's coming to me. It's coming to our house. And it really also makes you think of like where you live. I started hating the windows we have. I started thinking of the safe rooms. You can't go to the kitchen because it's, there's no house next to it. But we can go to my room because there's a house behind it. So you start really questioning every single detail in your house that you've never questioned beforehand.
Can you go in a little bit more to who and what the RSF is and how it all started from the Janjaweed?
Sudan is a made-up country. I mean, since it got its independence in 1956 from Britain, it's been at a state of war, very volatile politically. And as a result, the central government was always fighting off, rebellions and trying to crush rebellions in the periphery. And to do this, they would recruit paramilitary groups. They would train them, and then the paramilitary groups are usually from the places where the rebellions are happening, so they would kind of deal with them. So the army doesn't have to do, the dirty work most of the time. But then the RSF, it was a paramilitary group, but then it grew into an empire, an economic empire, a political empire. And after the revolution, Hemeti, its leader, just became, at the center stage of political life in Sudan. So it was basically a baby that was born out of the Sudan armed forces, and right now they cannot control it anymore. It has gone rogue. It has, in their own words, it has started a rebellion to overthrow, the Sudan armed forces. So this is the RSF.
When we say two militaries, too, I think sometimes, especially, in the West, people think about, oh, there's a rebel group and there's a military. There's like a little bit of like disadvantage here, or there's a little bit of a power. We're talking two militaries who are extremely well funded and extremely well armed to the point where it's like 1 for 1, which is scary because who do you have in the middle? Who is the collateral? It's the citizens of Sudan. It's the people in Sudan who are then having to flee, who are being displaced, having to go to Chad, having to go to other cities that are still pretty close to Khartoum, but they're having to go to other places because the fighting that they're literally in the middle of these two extremely heavily armed, huge arsenal armies. You sent us some pictures that I really, really want to get into about, your experience with the RSF. So I'm going to pull those up here, and if you can just take us through them, just again, so chat can see what's we're talking about. Put visuals to the words right here. This is your car.
Yes.
Stolen by the RSF.
It was my car.
It was your car.
Yes.
So
it was my car.
What happened here?
Yes. So we live in Khartoum East and towards the end of Khartoum East. So it's like a big district in Khartoum. And the RSF were moving neighborhood by neighborhood. So they were going neighborhood by neighborhood. And then I would hear from my friends that their house was looted. They took everything, they took the cars, and we were just kind of waiting for them to come to our neighborhood. So the closer they got, we just knew that we had to leave. And because also they would loot supermarkets and different things. So we knew that if we stayed, after a while, we would not be able to buy food. We would not be able to buy basics. So when we left, they came a few days later. They came to our house and they took my car, and they took possibly other things like cameras and things that we had left. We have pictures, so everything all our wardrobes are on the floor. They obviously looked through everything. They basically opened our safe, so our safe looks completely devastated. We didn't really have anything in there, but they still took some of the things. And right now, they're not in our house, but they live in our old house where we don't live anymore. So they've occupied it completely. They have been there for a few weeks. They have occupied my family's building where my uncles live. They have they can't go back to their house as a result. So they have occupied the houses of many people I know. We've lost everything, and when we left with so little. Like, we literally just took a few things. I took, I think, 6 of my books, and my books are very dear to me.
Mm-hmm.
My artwork, my photo albums, just everything that makes me, and we just left it there. So it's a huge violation, and to feel that maybe we will go back and we will find nothing is very scary. This is from our backyard. It's interesting because when we were in our house, when we were still in Khartoum, we have a lot of plants. Like, my mom loved plants, so our whole garden is like full of just plants and
Mm-hmm.
flowers and so on. And we were so scared to go and water the plants, but then we would kind of just pick a time when things were quiet, when we couldn't hear the sounds that I told you about, and we would go outside and just water the plants quickly and then come back in. So we found this. It was on the 5th day or 6th day of the war, and it was so scary because that day there was no fighting near us.
Mm-hmm.
So it really made me so scared that, wow, they travel so far. Like, what is this? What are we dealing with? And it made me more curious to understand the kind of weapons that they were using against us. I have friends all over Sudan, and some cities were not affected. So I remember my friend who lives in a city that's about 3 hours away, where we first sought refuge. She would call me every day, and they just didn't believe it. They just didn't believe that this kind of fighting was happening. And she would tell me, just come, like, you can stay with me, So many people were calling and telling us, get out, come. And so it was really so humbling to see everyone coming together, trying to help you, trying to support each other. It was really amazing to see that people were already thinking of schools and places where they could open for, like, displaced people who were coming from the affected areas. So people really came together and did what the government never did, basically. This picture just is very painful. About 10 years ago, my family donated a huge library, thousands of books belonging to my late great-grandfather, to a research center, Muhammad Omar Basir Research Center for Sudanese Studies at Omdurman Ahliya University. It's a university that was created by the people, so it's very close to our heart, and also because it's a university that always was basically a beacon of academic freedom and independence. So there is a systematic destruction of cultural life and the cultural infrastructure. I mean, looting is something, right? I mean, they would loot, like, what, computers or something, or screens, but then burning down this library and burning down many other research centers and galleries. So there is a pattern, So this war is really just it's a war against almost the country's identity, Going to this lab affiliated with the National Museum and messing up with basically monuments and different artifacts that go back not centuries, but like thousands of years. We're talking about, you know, part of like the Nubian civilization. This is a pattern, you know. This is not a one-off situation. And yeah, this picture is making me very sad. Some things can never be recovered and they can never be replaced, like this library, for example, and history and all the different cultural infrastructure that we have. A car can be replaced, you know, just even a home can be replaced in a way. But this is like our history, you know, and this is, for me, this is not only, I mean, this center doesn't only have like part of my family's history, but also so many manuscripts and so many, you know, things that are so useful to researchers, you know. So it is really, this is something that belongs to everyone in Sudan, you know. So to see it just go up in flames like that, it makes me very angry, you know, makes me very angry.